In the same way in which plans have a hierarchy, strategy also has a hierarchy, right? You have corporate strategy, which is at the level of the whole company, right? What would corporate strategy typically involve itself with? It would concern things like what are the businesses which the company should get into, what are the businesses which the company should invest in, should pursue aggressively, what are the businesses that the company should slowly withdraw from over a period of time. These are the kinds of issues that are part of corporate strategy. For instance, if you look at a company like ITC, now ITC is present in several businesses. It's present in paper, it's present in hotels, present in consumer products, various kinds of food products, and it's present in tobacco, right? So these are four very distinct businesses. Now, corporate strategy concerns which of these businesses need to be pushed and how much, and where are the resources for that additional investment going to come from. These are the issues of corporate strategy. Now let's come down to the next level, which is the level of business strategy. Again, let's go back to ITC. Let's take business 1, right? Business 1 is, let's say, the tobacco business, okay? Business 2 is the paper business, and business 3 is the hotels business. Now, in that event, the strategy in the tobacco business, the strategy in the paper business, and the strategy in the hotels business are very different from each other. So each business has its own strategy, and that is business strategy. What is business strategy concerned with? What are the kinds of things business strategy is concerned with? Let's say we are talking about the hotels, right? Business strategy for hotels, for the hotel business, would concern itself with what kind of hotels are we trying to get involved in? Are we trying to involve ourselves in budget hotels? Are we involving ourselves in luxury hotels? Are we involving ourselves in hotels in India, in hotels overseas, in hotels in tourist locations, in hotels in pilgrimage centers, right? These are the kinds of decisions that business strategy has to take care of. It will also look at the issue of collaboration, right? Does ITC in the hotel business need a collaborator, need an overseas name? Would an overseas name help ITC to market its hotels better? Right? These are the kinds of issues that are concerned with business strategy, and that's the second level of strategy. Now, for each one of these businesses, we come to the third level, which is the functional strategy. There is the marketing strategy or the operational strategy, there's the HR strategy, there's the finance strategy, right? So that's how strategy builds up. Now, this building up takes place from both ends, right? There are some things which move from the top, and there are some things which go up from the bottom. This takes us back to the process of strategy, which is what we began this course with. So the process of strategy is a process which starts with the mission, moves on to objectives, and then the company looks at the external environment, it looks at the internal environment, does a strategic analysis based on these inputs, it makes a strategic choice of a particular strategy which is then implemented. This implementation is then fed into the process, because sometimes during the course of implementation we might find that the strategic analysis that has been made is faulty, or we might find that due to changes in the environment, the strategic analysis that is made and the strategic choice that is made needs to be altered. The strategic analysis, which is really, as we saw earlier, a question of looking at external inputs, looking at internal inputs, and evolving strategic options based on these two inputs. That's strategic analysis. Now, how do we do this strategic analysis? Strategic analysis, we can draw on the models which have been worked out by people who have looked at the practice of strategy formulation in many hundreds and thousands of companies, right? For instance, the question of where to compete, we use the Porter 5 Forces model. Where to compete meaning which area to compete, which industry to compete in, right? We use the Porter 5 Forces model, which as we saw in an earlier session, gives us clues on the attractiveness of a particular industry. Then there is the question of how do we compete, right? Here we draw clues from Porter's generic strategies model, where he talks about cost, differentiation, focus. We draw clues from the Porter value chain. The Porter value chain splits up the various activities in a company into inbound logistics, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and so on. And we use these inputs to help us to decide how to compete. Then we go on to the question of the method of growth, right? We need to keep moving ahead. Now, how do we do that? Now, moving ahead, we use two of these models which are particularly useful. One is the concept of scenario analysis. What is scenario analysis? It's a question of predicting what could be the possible futures that may arise. We don't know which of those futures will actually come to be, but we are saying that there is a likelihood that the future could be in 1, 2, 3 ways. Then there is the Ansoff matrix, which tells us, starting with our present product and market, what are the various options available to us to grow. So, strategic analysis, which is a question of taking inputs from the external environment, taking inputs from the internal environment, and framing strategies, is helped by these various models.